Hello, everyone, and welcome to Co-Creation Station, the podcast where we talk about the law of attraction, the art of allowing, spiritual magic, the mind-body-spirit connection, and how to best enjoy this mystical, miraculous, mysterious, crazy, sometimes confounding, but always incredible journey we call life. My name is Collin. I'm a teacher, tarot oracle card reader, and I sing and play guitar in the band Red Treasure, and I am located in beautiful, sunny North Hollywood, California.
My name is Stephanie Orlina. I am a transformational life coach and I help people shift away from negative thinking and it transforms their lives. And I am coming from San Diego, California, and we had some rain on Friday, so it's cloudy and sunny today.
Oh, okay. Interesting. All right. We want to thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If you're listening to the audio version on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Castbox, Overcast, or whatever platform you're listening on. And thank you so much for watching us if you're watching the video version on the Co-Creation Station YouTube channel. At this point, we're still posting a brand new episode every Monday morning. We want to thank you for liking the episode, following us, subscribing to us, giving us a review, subscribing to the YouTube channel, all that stuff. It all helps other people find the show, and we're very grateful to you for that. Please also feel free to leave us a comment if you're watching the YouTube version. We'd love to hear from you, and we try to respond to all of them that we can understand. And you can also always email us if you like at cocreationstation1111@gmail.com. Every week we start our discussion from a different jumping off point, and this week we're going to do what we've done a couple times before, and I'm going to pull a oracle card, and that is going to frame the discussion for us. This is a deck called the Wisdom of the Oracle, which is another one of Colette Baron-Reid's. I think we did Wisdom of the Hidden Realms a few weeks ago.
I think you did a reading for me from those. That looks familiar for some
Yeah.
reason. Yeah.
Yeah, this was like her best known one for a long time. And I actually learned a lot about doing readings from for a while she still does a weekly reading for people who ever want to tune into it on YouTube, but she was using this deck like almost exclusively for a long time on there. So I learned a lot from her using this deck. So I don't know what card we're going to pick here. We're going to pick this card. It is, oh, interesting. This is called Chaos and Conflict. And for those audio people, trying to describe the picture on the card, it's like a desert landscape with a part horse, part zebra. And it is sort of, I don't even know how to describe that. It's got cracks in it. Like the reality of it is like kind of split or whatever. I don't know how to describe that. And then there's like a orange cloudy sky, dark orange, and then there's like prayer flags or something hanging over the top of the card. It's very beautiful, but
Chaos and conflict, is that what it was?
Yep. So let me go ahead and read. She has a little booklet that comes with each one of her decks, and I always like to read the description first before I give my own 2 cents about what the card means. So let's see this. Chaos and conflict. The essential meanings of this card are disarray, being at cross purposes with another, the tension of opposites, and the value of chaos before order. The Oracle's message on this card is opposing forces come together to create a turbulent atmosphere, but consider the value of chaos that serves you well as you become unmoored by it. Scattered to the winds, you leave behind the parts of yourself you no longer need and disperse seeds to reinvent yourself anew. Although the conflict appears to exist externally, its essence is also internal, projected outward and causing disarray. You may find yourself at cross purposes with someone else, facing a storm that you feel you cannot control. But every storm passes, and chaos always leads to the reordering of things. Conflict provides a way to see more than one side of a situation. Look upon this as just a moment in time when you may need to take shelter and step away from the fray. Don't be too eager to fight. This is a time to understand rather than to be understood.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot in there to unpack.
That was great. There was, well, go ahead. I'm sorry. You want to say a few things?
No, I was just saying, I think, I've heard Colette Baron Reed, the person who wrote that and created the deck, speak many times. I understand, and she's a big believer in the law of attraction. She talks about it constantly in her readings, but her cards don't always specifically mention it. So I always wonder, like, given that that's usually what we sort of center our conversation around here, like, will the card line up with that? And I feel like this is a really great point of conversation, I think, about the law of attraction, the art of allowing, because I think a lot of times we talk about, how to think positive thoughts, how to do things we love, so that we're feeling happy as often as possible, we're in a good vibration, we're putting out good vibrations, and
Right.
that will allow us to, we're enjoying our life in the present, but we're also attracting future things that we would desire and that would make us even happier.
Right.
But that, I feel like sometimes that tends to create this idea that, so if you're really going to be a great art of allower person, you're not going to have any conflict with anybody. You're never going to have any problems. You're never going to have any situations that are uncomfortable or difficult or challenging, and I don't think anybody really says that. In fact, I think we talked, it might have been last week, about how Abraham talks about contrast, which is this thing that, it's like seeing an experience, something you don't want is often an important part of identifying what you do want. Like, sometimes you need something you don't want directly in your face in your life, so that you will put out the vibration of, like, okay, I don't like that, but in response to that, I am now going to be very clear in my vibration of what I do want, And I think fights are an even bigger view of that, because I think most of us that are in the sort of spiritual arts or healing arts or stuff, like, we're trying to heal wounds, and we're trying to bring people together, and we're trying to bring ideas together, and we're not trying to sow the seeds of conflict. We're not trying to fight with others. We're not trying to put other people below us in any way through fighting or attacking or whatever. But it still happens, disagreements and fights still happen between people. And I've been to several spiritual gatherings in my time where afterwards I have a side conversation with somebody else who was there, and like, there's definitely, like, not all of us were super happy the entire time. Yeah. Regardless of what it may have looked like on the outside. So sorry, you look like you want to jump in
there. I wrote down a ton of notes. Some of them I wasn't able to correctly write the sentence down, but I've been the last couple of weeks I've been feeling like, okay, I think it's time for me to share this. And yeah, apparently today's the episode, with the chaos and conflict, because I'm walking through a divorce right now. And it's been it's almost going on 3 years. And COVID hit shortly after I told my husband I wanted a divorce, and then we paused for many months. And we were waiting for some paperwork, and it took 8 months, and then found out I couldn't get that. And anyways, so chaos and conflict. I think this is perfect because because I practice. I've learned so much over the years. I'm going to cry. I've learned so much over the years from practicing this, especially what Abraham teachings of Abraham, that I'm able to walk through this very challenging, life-changing situation in a way that I'm able to show up as lovingly as I can through fear, just send love to it. Like, walk through the feelings, walk through the unknowns. And just recently I was learning some energy work and putting that, like, love around us. Because I know, even though our marriage is ending, like, I know deep down we still love each other. Like, we care about each other. But there's so many things that happen in a divorce, and, talk about chaos and conflict, right? Conflict. And what did it say about cross purposes? Like, I want one thing, he wants one thing, and, dissolving, assets and all of that stuff. And it's very challenging, and I get to use what I've learned through the art of allowing, and I get to walk through this situation in a way that if I didn't use the art of allowing and everything that I've learned in the decades that I've been into personal growth and self-help, um, I'm able to show up in a way that I'm just like, wow. And I always said that I wanted it to be amicable, and it has been. It has not. It hasn't been that it hasn't been challenging and difficult and painful and sad and trying at times and scary as F. And I never thought I'd be here, but here I am, and I'm able to do it in a way that I'm being loving and respectful to myself and honoring what I need and want, and also being loving and respectful to him. And
Mhm.
uh, and I don't think that I think that we can walk through challenging situations, conflicts and chaos,
Mm.
um, with love and respect and integrity and
Mm.
grace. So there it goes. When I
Yeah.
say there's certain things that that was what I was referring to, some of it anyway.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I mean, I think when we think about, I've been thinking about this a lot this week. If we want to be spiritual beings, if we want to be in alignment with our higher selves, if we want to be in alignment with a higher power that loves everybody, how do we deal with scenarios where we're actually you get into a situation where one person wants one thing and another person wants something else, and it can't actually be negotiated. Like there has to be some friction because there's no way for both people to get everything they want the way they want it. And I feel like it happens pretty regularly in our world. Like that's part of being human, is like you get into relationships, you get into situations with other humans, and then desires are clashing, they're not in harmony. Um, and I think there's like, you could think of it as like, oh well, that's bad. You just always want to avoid situations where there's not harmony, and I don't think that's. I think my experience is the more in harmony with myself I get, and the more in alignment I get with my true self, like the fewer situations I have that are like raging, kind of
Absolutely.
unresolvable
Yeah,
conflicts.
absolutely. That's
And the
one of the
conflicts I have
benefits.
the conflicts I have or that appear are still unpleasant usually. Like they still are not fun to go through, but but I feel more centered,
Right.
and I feel like I'm treating people with respect because I'm
Absolutely.
I'm conducting myself in a way that feels, like I'm not trying to escalate a conflict.
And I
I'm
really feel
trying
like
to.
that's the beauty of this, is like really coming from our inner power.
Yeah.
Like what you talked about is like being grounded. Like that's one of the things that I feel like being in the vortex, being in or near the vortex, doing how can I help myself to feel better in this moment.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I've seen over the years that it's done for me and others, is it grounds me in who I really am and
Yeah.
connects me to that inner power that we can't see. Like it's
Yeah.
not tangible, but I can feel it. And
Yeah.
actually other people can see it. Like I can witness it when other people are experiencing it, and other people can witness it when I'm experiencing it, with how I
Yeah.
show up in my body, in my beingness, like you were saying, not
Yeah.
attack, just kind of like, okay, just
Yeah.
kind of grounded in my truth and what is it here. But some of the things that you said, it said, chaos before order. That was
Yeah.
really, I loved that. And
Yeah.
then knowing that this is, what would it say, that's the temporary situation.
Yeah.
What did it, yeah, because sometimes, well, and like in the
Look
what I
upon
just
this, look upon this as just a moment in time where you
moment in
may need
time.
to take shelter and step away from the fray.
And this one's kind of unusual because it is taking longer than it normally does, and I trust that all is, there's there's reason for it that I can't visually see, but I
Mm.
trust higher power enough to know that there are things going on that I can't see. There's purpose. There's reasons for it.
Yeah.
Um, and something that I've shared before in the podcast about I want to be someone who develops in so much faith that they're unable to worry, and I feel that this situation is helping me build that
Mm.
muscle.
Yeah.
Um, and helping me like build a stronger inner world. So like, you're saying you're just centered. Like I
Hmm.
feel like I've been given the opportunity to like really go deep and get centered and grounded in my truth and in higher power and my higher self, which I choose now to call inner being. But I love that it's only a moment in time,
Yeah.
because it's like, oh yeah, eventually, like a storm, it comes in,
Yeah.
and then eventually, like the next day, it's bright and sunny and what have you. And consider the value. Um, I was sharing with a friend yesterday when we were hiking. I said I feel like this experience, nipples. This experience is there's so many benefits from it, even though it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Um, but it's helping me realize how strong I am,
Yeah.
and it's helping. It's everything that I'm going through right now is going to help me in the future in other situations,
Hmm.
and I'll also be able to be of service to others because of this experience and being able to share my experience, strength, and hope. Um,
Yeah. I mean, I think there's, and and this is always tricky for me because I don't. There's this Brene Brown kind of coined this phrase called silver lining, which is when somebody comes to you for empathy and instead of empathizing you find the positive
yeah,
and you point it out to them, and it's
yeah,
like it's really like as where she talks about it, it's actually a way for you to distance yourself from that person and kind of feel superior and protected while making them feel like they're in a worse position because
mm,
you're not acknowledging that they've come to you in a vulnerable state and wanting you to just meet them on the level. You're actually kind
mm-hmm.
of like saying, you know, well, let's not deal with the actual conflict. Let's just move to higher ground or whatever. So, I mean, I want to be careful with that because I think that can be a dysfunctional, harmful thing to do to somebody. But I think there is a way. I mean, almost every negative in life does have something good that comes out of it.
Absolutely.
Anytime there's any sort of, and we don't, I don't ever really talk about world events here, but it's hard not to this week with what's going on in Ukraine. And it's like, it's very challenging to look at a situation like what's going on in Ukraine right now and just say, well, there's positives. But I mean, there clearly are. I mean, like the Ukrainian people are showing the world how to be human, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're getting attacked for no reason. Their cities are getting leveled. Their families are getting ripped apart, and they are um, only choosing to. They're only choosing to attack people who attack them directly, and they continue to treat everyone with kindness. Like there's been these viral videos of when they capture a Russian soldier,
Mm-hmm.
like they give him food and drink because the Russian army has run out of food basically because they're terribly run,
Mm-hmm.
and they let them, like there's this one video of a Ukrainian woman letting a captured Russian soldier FaceTime his mom on her phone,
Oh my gosh.
you know, and like
I've got chills up my legs.
this is a guy who came to slaughter her and her family, and it's like that kind of just a demonstration is it's just proof. And of course all of us, as humans would say, well, if we had a magic wand, could we, would we just make all the people who get killed this week, live again, and all the parents united with their kids and all that? Yes, we would. But we're powerless over a lot of this stuff. Like I can be the most spiritual person in the world. I can pray all day. I'm not going to stop the Russian government from attacking a nation if it decides to, but I can choose like what I focus on out of it. And like as I get information about what's going on in Ukraine. Like that's what I focus on. Ukrainian's president is just teaching every leader in the world what a leader is. You know, I mean, he's just, and this is a guy who was a comedian and an actor until like 4 years ago. Like this is his first political gig.
Wow.
and he is inspiring his people. He's acknowledging all the horrible reality, and he is acting with love on a daily basis in the face of like, you know, stuff that most of us, you couldn't even dream of facing it in your life. You know, I think I have problems when I wake up in the morning. You know, like his whole nation is getting leveled on a daily basis, and he's able to find positive, you know. So I mean,
So
if he
he's
can
really
find
practicing the art of allowing, isn't he? Like
100%.
to an nth
I mean, the
degree.
weird thing is, I mean, and I don't want to get into too much of the news because, you know, there is an aspect of it that's just horrible, depressing, and we're powerless over it. So I don't want to focus on it. But I mean, nobody thought, no one, and I mean no one, thought that the Russians wouldn't have taken over, or it's now day 11 of the invasion. They've only captured one city. Like all the major cities of Ukraine are still under Ukrainian control, which like nobody thought that would happen. Yeah. And the other thing is, I haven't seen in my lifetime the nations of the world unite around another country the way it's happening now. And we're in this weird scenario where, because Russia has nuclear weapons, like nobody else can go in and help them, because we know as soon as one other military force from an actual country goes in, we're risking nuclear war. So it's like we can't go help them in these direct ways. But like almost every nation on the planet is finding a way to help in an indirect way. Yeah. And there's this unity around, like, this is just this human acknowledgement that when you try, and again, I don't want to get too much into the details, but Putin, the president of Russia, is doing exactly what we tell people not to do on this show, which is he's trying to control everything. He is trying to accumulate things by just forcing it. It's more complicated than that, obviously, but that's the essence of what he's doing. It's this gigantic ego, no higher power involved. I'm going to control this into what I want, and he's getting the worst results ever.
So I want to mention, I got an email from a friend who we used to do an Abraham. She's Ruby. She had her Abraham circle at her place. She sent me, and another friend sent me an email with, it's called War in Ukraine 2022. And it's Abraham Hicks.
Oh.
And she answered some people's questions, and they just kind of put it all in a visual, and you can find it on YouTube. It's 7 minutes and 57 seconds long. So if you go into YouTube and put in War in Ukraine 2022, you'll find it. It's got a heart on it. And it was beautiful. You can read it and watch it. And I really felt, for me, because that was when we kind of made an appointment for mediation again. And I was looking at it, and everything that it said, it kind of related. I thought, oh, this is, yes, they were talking about people suffering and what they've put in their vortex, because when we have contrast, and this is like a heightened version of contrast by far, that all the rockets of desires of everyone there and their family and friends and everyone's affected, they've put in something even better than, the answers, the solutions, well-being for all into their vortex. And what they're asking for those of us to think about what they've put in there and seeing, kind of like what we're saying, it's a moment in time. Yes, it's a horrific thing. This too will pass. But I was even looking at it from my situation in my life right now, and it was just really soothing. Like everything is always working out. So if anyone, I highly recommend listening to it. I captured a couple of images just for myself personally, but Wow, that's
I mean,
beautiful.
the other thing, sorry to back up too, the other weird thing, well, there, I did it again. I called it weird. It's actually how the universe works all the time. The law of attraction thing is that, I mean, President Zelensky potentially, and I'm sure unintentionally at first, did like the biggest like visualization into reality thing ever, because I mean, the reason he was able to run for president was because he was the lead on the sitcom in Ukraine, where he played a character who was a well-meaning, ordinary guy. The character on the show was a history teacher, a high school history teacher, and after in the first episode, what happens is after his students have gone out for something, another guy who works at the school or something comes in and tells him something, gives him some bad news about something that's happened at the school, and he kind of loses his mind, and he gives the guy like his whole honest opinion of like the Ukrainian government and all the corruption and how it leaks down into the school and all the teachers are, da 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 da. And it's profanity laden. But one of the students, he doesn't know that there's a student in like a classroom that's like got a window into to a window of that room, and the student films it all, puts it on YouTube, and like everyone in Ukraine, now we're still in the fictional world right now, but everyone in Ukraine gets wound up about him, and somebody tells him he should run for president. So he runs for president, kind of just like thinking, like, I'm not going to win.
Right.
And then he wins, and it's this hilarious.
Chills up my legs and the back of my head.
The thing is, you can watch this. The show's on YouTube, and if you put the closed captioning on, it'll translate it into your language. So, I mean, it's got English subtitles if you need it. But there's this, I mean, it's just the biggest, like, art becoming, like, his life on his fictional life on the show literally became the show, because he, like, he wakes up the morning of the election, after the election, and he hasn't followed the results at all, because he just assumed he was going to come in like 11th place. And his family has to get him out of the bathroom in his underwear, and the Ukrainian Secret Service is at his apartment door to get him to the presidential stuff that he's got to do.
Oh my God. And
he's sitting, so they have him sitting, finally he gets dressed, they get him in the car, and he's sitting in the back seat with a Ukrainian Secret Service guy whose job for life now is taking care of him. And they're watching TV in the car, and they're watching the leaders of the world talk about how they've never heard of him, but they are congratulating the Ukrainians on their election and wish him well. And then, so he was on the show for a few years, and it was very popular. And then he ran, like, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. I don't know the exact dates. And then, like, when he won, I remember the news media here actually said, like, oh, yeah, this actor won. They did the same thing that the show did, they hadn't seen the show, and then they did the same thing the media on the show did. And now, and like this week, I was watching, because he's talking to world leaders regularly because of what's going on, this weird scenario where nobody can fight with him, but they're trying to help him. And he did like he's doing like Zooms with like the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, with Biden, all this stuff. And I'm like, that's what his character was doing in the car, was watching the world leaders like basically acknowledge him. I was like,
oh my goodness.
So I mean, talk about like accidentally visualizing what your life's gonna be like. And I mean, there's no war in the show, obviously, but I mean, it's just one of those things of like, but I just watched the first episode, but the whole theme of that first episode is, Ukraine is in conflict because of corruption and stuff like that, and what the people are kind of yearning for is a good leader who's honest and who loves his people and wants to fight for them.
I just got chills again.
And then that's what they get.
Yeah. And so this was what you just shared is a prime example of they had contrast,
Yeah.
and they shot rockets of desires into their vortex of
Yeah.
what they wanted,
Yeah.
and then out pops this person
Yeah.
who is the essence of what they're wanting. And
Right.
now they're, even though there's more contrast, wow, okay,
Yeah.
amazing. All right, well, we're gonna end with that
Yeah.
incredible story. And
Yes.
yeah.
So let me put yeah. Thank you so much. We hope you got something out of our show today. Thank you so much for listening or watching, whichever you did. And thank you so much for liking, following, subscribing, reviewing us, and subscribing to the YouTube channel if you're watching us here. Again, you can leave us a comment, and please do, on the YouTube video. And you can also email us at cocreationstation1111@gmail.com. Stephanie, if people want to find you, where can they do
You
that?
find me on the web, Power Enjoy, POWERINJOY.com, and also Instagram, same handle.
And you can always find me or write me a direct message on Instagram, as long as you're not watching this like 200 years in the future. I shouldn't say always. But I'm at Collin_Daniels_Worster. Collin has 2 L's, and Worster is WORSTER. We hope you are able to navigate any conflicts and chaos that come your way this week, and practice the art of allowing, and everything works out for the greater good of you and everyone else. And we'll see you next week on Co-Creation Station. Bye, everybody.
Bye, y'all.